What is up, everybody? Jester here, and at the time of filming, the Liquidators Expedition has one more day available to play. And this got me thinking, one thing I haven't done in this game is showed you guys how I go about getting my stuff set up, ready for an expedition, and there is a rumored 3 more updates before the end of the year, so there's possibly going to be more expeditions coming. I can't guarantee that, but it's definitely possible. So I thought this was a good chance for me to kind of show you how I set up for them and prepare. And that way on day 1, I'm ready to go in and do the expedition. There is a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. Without really knowing the theme for the expedition, I think it's important to cover all your bases to get started with. And the first thing I like to do is come over to my refining hub and go ahead and pick up some rusted metal. And I know I've mentioned this in the farming videos and stuff, but it actually makes perfect sense here. Just come in here and refine this down, because you're going to be able to get tons of ferrite dust. You can also re-refine it down into pure ferrite, and you can also re-refine that down into magnetized ferrite. So without knowing what we're getting into, this is a really good thing to have on hand. I'd recommend at least 2 stacks of ferrite dust. Along the same vein, you want to make sure that you've got plenty of life support and plenty of other things you can do to build stuff with, because you never know what they're going to ask, and that's why I always recommend both oxygen and carbon. And as I've pointed out again in the farming videos, Oxygen Farm is probably the most powerful farm in all of No Man's Sky, because you can take that oxygen and then refine it down in carbon at 1:1. So now you've got all the carbon you need for your mining laser. You got the oxygen you're going to need. Again, 1 stack of oxygen, 1 stack of carbon. Also, I like to grab a little bit of copper. This way we can put this into a refiner and we can make it into chromatic metal, because again, you never know what they're going to ask you to build. And it's just a good thing to have at least 1 stack of this when you go into the expedition. The next 3 I'm going to kind of cover here in one little blurb, and they're pretty important. And if you watched the last video about the importance of farming and the first 6 farms I think you should be building, this should be pretty self-explanatory. First up is going to be sodium. You need that for multiple things. You can refine it down into sodium nitrate. You can use it to recharge your hazard protection, and you can also use it to recharge your ship shield. So bringing a stack, maybe even 2 of this, is a really good idea. Also, I think you should bring a stack of pyrite. This is going to take care of all the pulse fuel you're going to need for your ship, as well as a stack of uranium. And this is going to take care of your launch thrusters. This way you've got everything covered from your exosuit to your ship. But also remember, you don't get to the anomaly straight away. So it may be phase 2 before you get there. It could even be phase 3. So you're going to need to be collecting all of these things as you go. And these first 6 that we mentioned are very much worth collecting right out of the gate starting any expedition. Another thing I like to bring separately is warp fuel. Now, there's a couple of ways to go about doing this. One's going to put a lot less strain on your resources. Sure, with everything we're bringing, we can craft antimatter because we have the chromatic metal and we can make the condensed carbon. We also have the ferrite dust and the oxygen, so we can make warp cells anytime we want to, and that should get us through the expedition. But what I like to do is go out and collect some storm crystals, about 20 of these, and then 20 antimatters, and that's going to make 20 warp hypercores. This is going to get you through the expedition without having to put any strain on your resources whatsoever, especially considering the next part. I think everybody at this point is pretty familiar with the expedition terminus here in the anomaly. When you have an existing save, you can come here to start your expedition, and it allows you to bring up to 24 separate cargo items, as well as 8 technologies, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. But there's also some other things you can do. Using nanites, you can actually create a copy of whatever multi-tool you had when you came into the expedition. In this case, this was just kind of a burner save that I had that we did the creative survival mode run on. And it's got a decent little multi-tool here with 41,344 damage. And I'm pretty sure on my main save, it cost about 2,300 or 2,500 nanites in order to get this done. So don't be fooled that this number is pretty low, because I'm pretty sure that it's actually higher with the more upgraded that it gets. The other thing that this allows you to do is create a copy of whatever starship you came in with. In this case, we came from our main save with the Utopia Speeder, and it's got a few upgrades. Like I said, this isn't a main account or anything like that. But for 2,800 nanites, I can now copy this ship and use it in the expedition. And this is why you need nanites when you come into these things. The most common method for most is going to be runaway mold, and I'll put a card for my farm up in the top right corner. It's mostly unaffected by Worlds 1. You still get a pretty good yield, but not as good as it used to be. But this is pretty much how you can go about getting all the nanites you need for the entire expedition. You can then come over and put them in a refiner, and you're going to end up getting about 2,000 nanites per, which means you're going to need to bring 5 stacks of nanites to get the 10,000 nanites or so that you're thinking of. The other problem with doing it this way is the time. It's a 20-minute process in order to get these refined down, and that's a long time when you're just sitting there doing nothing else. But it does work, and you can definitely do it this way, and you could bring as many stacks of this stuff as you wanted to. Like I said, 5 will get you the 10K, but if you wanted to do the grind, there's other ways that are a little better that you can get this done quicker. One thing you could do is go out looking for Sentinel ships, and from here you're going to be taking the Highland Brain and stacking those up. These will actually go into Refiner and get you nanites at a pretty good clip. When you put a stack of these Highland Brains in, you end up getting 2,300 nanites in 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And again, it's going to take about 5 stacks of this to get over that 10K threshold that I think is fairly safe. But if you want to put in the work and you want to go find these brains, this is a really good way to get the nanites pretty quickly once you get into the expedition. The other method that you can use, and it really works well if you're actually trying to upgrade a freighter by going around and getting all the different derelicts, is you could find tainted metal in those derelict freighters. The problem with this is it doesn't come in very big quantities, and it's very difficult to keep it, but it does refine down to a 1-to-2 ratio. So 1 stack will net you 20,000 nanites. The problem is you're going to have to do that 4 times, so almost 50 minutes when it comes down to it, because you can only get 4,095. So a stack of 5,000 of this would work out fine. It would get you right to that 10K threshold in about 24 minutes. But again, getting it in the quantity of 5,000, not the easiest thing to do. It's a bit of a grind, but if you want to go do it that way, by all means, go do it that way as well. The next thing that you're going to want to have when you come into one of these expeditions is a source of income or units. And in my case, this is an absolute no-brainer because I've already set up a stasis device farm. This thing will make about 25 of these every 24 hours. And it's not that big of a farm because it doesn't have to be. When you look at a stack of 10 of these things, it's 156 million units. That could be a little plus or minus depending on where you sell them. But it's going to be all the money you need for an expedition. And remember, when you play the expedition, you're going to be getting units, and we're going to be getting nanites and a little bit of quicksilver for some of the different achievements that you get during the phases. So if you get 1 stack of these, it's all you're going to need for the entire expedition, and you'll be good to go. An exosuit expansion unit, it would be a really good thing to have on these expeditions, but they're extremely difficult to come by. There's only 3 sources that you really get them from. The first is going to be harmonic scrap on dissonant planets, but the drop rate on that is only 4.5%. So it's a very, very low possibility. You have a 2 to 4% chance that you can get one if you're doing mission board work. And then some Explorer Guild envoys will have them, so long as you have a high enough rank inside of that guild. So if you can bring these, cool. If you have them, that's great. But I've found that Hello Games has actually kind of been doing pretty good with making sure you've got enough room to carry everything that you need. So you will get some of these and get expansion slots as you go on during these expeditions. Not necessary to bring it, but it's nice to have if you want to. For anyone having any trouble finding any of these resources, I went in and put the portal coordinates for the Kingdom system, which is my home system, here on the screen. We've got basically everything we mentioned in the video today here, from the runaway mold farms, multiple of those, to all the different resources mentioned, and just lots of good stuff here as well. Some games you can play inside the game if you're bored with going around and exploring. A really cool system to come check out. There's also money makers here you can grab, from Nip Nip Buds to the Album and Pearl, like all of it's here. So come and check it out if you guys are having any trouble. You're more than welcome to grab whatever you'd like. It's pretty much inevitable at this point that someone's going to come in the comments and say, hey, you missed this, or I like to bring that. And you guys are 100% right. There is no complete right answer to this, because Hello Games is going to throw you a curveball on certain things that you might need for this expedition that you won't need for the next one. And if you bring it for the next one, you won't need it. And that's just kind of the way it works. And there are some omissions too that are pretty big. Dihydrogen crystals is one of them. I don't think you need them, because you're going to have to gather a little bit to get off the first planet and be able to get to the anomaly. By the time you get to the anomaly, you can then go sell all those stasis devices and buy all the dihydrogen jellies you're ever going to need. And you could always refine those down to dihydrogen if you needed to. Another good example would be cadmium, emerald, and indium. You know, you should already have all of those drives in your ship at that point before you actually clone your ship. So do that before you go into the expedition, and you don't have to worry about having any of those metals, and money's already covered, which is what indium and emerald and stuff are pretty much good for, other than putting in certain technologies. So definitely we can all agree to disagree, but I guarantee you they're going to throw a curveball every expedition. And, you know, but this list will keep your survival bases covered. And hopefully that helps you out. And don't forget to visit the kingdom. It's all here for you. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. As the sun sets, we close another video. Till next time, bye.